When Stephen asked me to talk about data science for business, is namely my daily life since 5 years, where I work mostly with VAs and venture architects, business builders. And the main problem was like they have a problem, they put a black box, oh, we solve this problem with AI. The other part also is like to educate a little bit data science to be a little bit more business-wise. So there is a big hiatus between business and data science. And what I try to come here, because we still have problems to address here, I will try to show my perspective, in my perspective, what we need to start to change. So I will start with cliches that I really don't like, and I would like to educate a little bit the people. Maybe you don't like my definitions, but at least think about it. So please raise your hands or unmute yourself if you agree with data is the new oil. You are inside it. Okay. When someone addresses me to me and say, "Oh, we are data-driven," by my experience, if a company says this, then I always think about fracking. Do you know what is fracking? So fracking is a not so well sustainable way to extract gas or oil.
I'm going to get you a microphone.
Okay. To extract gas or oil from the soil.
Is that better? Yes.
Okay, so if you think about fracking, and if everyone thinks that nowadays we are trying to build sustainable business, then for sure I will never connect data with oil. First of all, because it's like we are moving to a sustainability business-wise, and that is renewal. So it's not the same as oil. So I will start to think to address these two, if you like the idea, a little bit to pass the word. Okay, my data is bigger than yours. When people approach you, oh, we have so much data, we have so much data. So we are data scientists, right? And everyone thinks about big data. And for me, big data is not the size. There is no definition about the size of the data. And for me, the definitions of the data, or big data, is these 5 Ds, or 4 plus 1. And it is not the size of your database, it's the way that you approach data, and how you consume the data, and how you ingest the data. So again, if someone asks you if you work with big data, yeah, it could be a small database. It's just the approach that you get with the data. Okay, another question to everyone. Who from here is data-driven? Oh, that's a man. Okay, I didn't expect this for business people or data science people. Okay, in my idea, most of the companies that they say they are data-driven, they are blind. They don't know what they are talking about. Because it's like there's much more in data, just follow the data. Like, for example, let's say when COVID came, we didn't have no data. So how did we survive without data? We could not follow the data because there was no data. So maybe there is something more than data-driven, and you use it every day. So there is a higher level that I call data informed. What is data informed? Many of you already have a product and decided to make questions to the users, or change, for example, the user journey. And then you do an A/B test that you collect more data that you didn't have, and you start to get decisions being informed of what data that you didn't have before. And then you can move again to data-driven. So we start informed now.
What do you say?
Who is that informed now?
Who is that informed?
No. Daniel.
Good. Okay, but there is another level, and it's the level that I put data scientists. It's like we have lots of data, we cannot get any insight from the data, and we work with the data to get insights from the data. And that's for me an ideal company that wants to build a data science team. Did I convince you now? Did this look like? Good. Then we have 200 years of data, 1,000 years of data. Amazing. We can do amazing with the data, but not in the perspective of data science. So one of the things that I have in mind always, when you collect data, you use it or you lose it. Because let's say, if I have all the weather cast from Berlin for the last 2,000 years, will I use all this data to predict tomorrow forecast? Maybe not. If I have all the data from selling mobile phones, from iPhone, whatever, is this going to be valid to use all this data to inject in a model, for example? Maybe not. So the fact that we have too much data and the dynamic of the data is so fast nowadays. So look, for example, companies, delivery companies. We had in mind, for example, that we're going to have such a number of delivery companies, for example, in Germany. We have a common friend that Rocket Internet decided to build a similar company like 5 years ago and went down because what was the name? With Enrico, they moved to Australia. No. Yeah, anyway, so Rocket Internet built it like 5-7 years ago, and it was a model that was not working. But now, everyone likes it, right? So the fact that we have too much data, maybe this amount of data, or when you train models, most of the times you cut, you don't bring all the data to the model. Good. Now that we talk a little bit about jargons and some definitions that I'm a little bit against too. In a business side, it's really nice to have a definition of data strategy. And it's really complex if you go define data strategy by technology. My idea to define a data strategy in a business level, I always define it defensive or offensive. And there is a few keywords to analyze if a company is offensive or defensive on the data strategy. And these are the key objectives, where they collect data, what they would like to do with the data, how do they manage the data, and the enabling architecture. So if you are defensive, you are more concerned about data security, privacy, integrity, quality, compliance, and governance. But then you don't have time to explore the data, to get some insights from the data. If you just focus on data extraction, standardization, and access, you always lose the other part that the data science should be. And then there's many companies that think I have the data, I need to control my data, no one can access my data. But this also doesn't allow to use the data to be data informed, to be data aware, or even, for example, data driven. So when you measure when you ask a company, what is your strategy? So you try to define how the company deals with the data internally. Just to give you an example, using this graph, you see like an extreme position hospitals, middleware like banks, and then retailers. But it's like, this is not static. So anytime that you address a new problem, anytime that you have a new strategy, you can be more offensive or more defensive. Like, for example, this GDPR. So we bring lots of defensive part in everyone. So the other problem for someone that starts to study AI 20 years ago is what is AI? It is really important in a business level how you sell your product. Most of the companies say we are doing AI, but what is the really definition of AI? What I learned 20 years ago, there is two standard definitions or two versions. One is that AI is a science that study human behavior and try to reproduce it with computers. I took the freedom to extend this definition to animals also. I see many nice projects to try to understand animal behavior using AI. And the goal of this branch of the AI, it says that after I will be able to mimic or copy the human behavior, is not anymore AI, because it's not a science, it's a technology. There is the other version that says AI is an area of studies, computing studies, that want to build the extreme AI. So I think that's the most exemplar picture that I can put here is Terminator. This is not my definition of AI. So as a data science, I don't build AI. I just use techniques developed by AI science to apply to do my normal job. And I think this is nothing new to anyone. All the branches from AI. So if you ask me what is your stack, your expertise, as I start to say at the beginning, I'm a mathematician. I can think, and I can decide what is the best area of AI to apply on my projects. And now let's go more in an internal fight with data scientists. When the main metric to evaluate nowadays how good is your model, we only start by the metrics. Things are changing. My first question when someone told, oh, I have a really amazing AI model that performs really good, I ask, what is your data set? I had experience with a company that tries to promote AI product, best of the best in the world. And when I ask, okay, so if I get your product from Germany to US, I can use it. Oh, it's not like that. Why not? Because the model is not compiled with data set from US. So the first question is, if your model performs really good, if you are really proud, then you need to be clear enough and transparent to say it's good enough on this data set. Like, for example, let's say if someone makes a model to predict selling ice cream in Iceland, I'm quite sure that they will eat ice cream every day, right? If you try to bring this model for Portugal, Italy, I'm quite sure that the model will be not fit to work there, unless they put all the Portuguese eating ice cream every day, right? The other part, and this is really important, how ethical is your model? Like yesterday, a friend of mine asked me to fill a survey, and he was asking me, what is your gender? I said, why are you collecting data to collect data from gender? You don't even put, I don't want to reply to this. For example, there is a mix of people here. Do you think that I should build a model, if you drive your car, that if you have insurance, just because you are a woman or a man, you need to pay more or less? So, and how much you go on the between ethical and performance. So it's a little bit about, you need to think about everything together. So it's not only just go out and say we will like to have equal rights, you also need to do this or apply this on the areas that you are professionally involved with. Since I did not so much the audience, I try to bring an example, a data science example. It's something that I didn't saw many times, not even in Medium, not even in any other publication. So as I said in the beginning, we work on validating ideas, we work on validating concepts and business. And usually this is a part that is done by strategic designs, for example. And what we have is this normal concept in COVID times, using Miro, for example, where you just get like 5-10 people, and there is a problem, you ask people to write whatever they want to. Then there is a moderator that gets all the stickies and tries to cluster all the stickies in a minimum number of clusters. And then maybe there is an idea, if you need to prioritize anything, then you ask people to vote. So I think everyone is doing this daily. Okay, this is qualitative. Imagine that you have 1,000 people doing this, or 1 million. So topic modeling, it gives you, on this case, specific case, it gives you a framework that you can join qualitative and quantitative. And data science most of the times complain that they don't have enough data. I will show you that the data is there, you just need to have different ideas. So on this case, you see a picture from Google Play, and as you see, I don't know if you can see, but I got Google Maps, and there is, I don't know, maybe 1 million of reviews there. And we have the number of stars, we have the text, and the number of people that upvote this review. So, how do you use topic modeling? What are the advantages? So if you see like a group of 5 people trying to organize like 20 stickies on a Miro board or in the office, you cannot scale it. You cannot bring like 1 million people. Then it's like, it's not, if you have 1 million people writing the stickies, you are not able to cluster them in time. And then if you do this session, if the session are too long, there is a point that no one knows where to put the sticky because it's already like really different. So what topic modeling will help you on a business level, and this is an example that I was working on. So I was comparing 5 companies that have the same business or the business model. And I'd like to ask what the users are talking about. I guess it was like around 10,000 records. So the idea was to get all the reviews that the users put on Google Store, Apple Store. I made another test with Amazon shop. And the idea, I was able to fit all the reviews from the users in 4 clusters. And then I was using all the analytics that I could get from the data, like number of votes, number of stars. And I was able to compare where, in the same business area, where they perform better, and to try to understand what are the areas that users are talking about. More, if you go, one of the top modeling concepts, you also can do this over time. So you can try to understand how the topics goes over time. And then if you associate, for example, the versions of the apps, you can see that there are people complaining when they have an old app. So the problem here is maybe you need to reinforce the users to upgrade the app, maybe. And there is more, if you Google topic modeling, you find that there are many techniques and many ways to do this. So the main conclusions that I'd like to leave here is like when you see someone, business, to talk about joiners. We are a data-driven company, red flag. Second, when they define your stake, you need to use RWS, you need to use pandas, you need to use whatever, another red flag, because a data science should be an artist. And the worst thing is like, we are a data-driven company, we have a really amazing stack, but you need to answer to the CTO. So that's the worst part. So if you plan to rethink your future or the company that's where you are, if these three things happen, so for me, it's a really big red flag.
Thank you, Paulo.
Yeah.